Hello and welcome, dear English learner. I'm so happy you are here. You are trying to improve your English, and that's a big step. Learning a language is not easy, but it can be fun and exciting, especially when you learn through real stories. Today, I want to share a true story with you. It's not just any story, it's the story of Steve Jobs, the man who started Apple and changed the world. But this story is not only about technology, it's about dreams, failure, success, and believing in yourself. And while you read or listen, something special will happen. You will learn English and you will feel inspired. The words in this story are simple and clear. You will learn new vocabulary, understand grammar and action, and most of all, you will feel stronger and more motivated. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. Because this is more than a story. It's your English lesson. It's your motivation. It's your moment. Let's begin. Oh, guys, I almost forgot. I just want to remind you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Let's start now. The story of Steve Jobs. Part 1. A boy with a different start. Steve Jobs was born on February 24th, 1955, in San Francisco, California. But his life did not begin like most children. His birth parents were two university students who were not ready to raise a child. So, they decided to give him up for adoption. A kind and simple couple, Paul and Clara Jobs, adopted the baby and gave him their name, Steve Jobs. Paul Jobs was a mechanic. He loved working with machines. He taught Steve how to use tools, fix cars, and build things. Steve learned to pay attention to details. Clara Jobs was warm and caring. She always supported Steve and made sure he felt special. Steve was a curious child. He asked many questions. He loved to read and explore. But school was not easy for him. He was intelligent, but he often got bored. He didn't enjoy sitting in class for long hours. His teachers noticed that Steve was different, not in a bad way, but in a unique way. One day, when Steve was around 10 years old, he saw a computer for the first time. It was love at first sight. The machine could solve problems, store information, and display words on a screen. Steve was amazed. He knew something big was coming, something that would change the world. Part 2. Two friends and a big dream. When Steve became a teenager, he met another smart boy named Steve Wozniak. People called him Woz. He was shy, quiet, and loved electronics. Woz could build radios and small computers just for fun. Steve Jobs, on the other hand, was not very technical, but he had a strong vision. He knew how to see the big picture. He could imagine the future. Together, they made a great team. Woz built things, and Steve imagined how to sell them. One day, Woz created a small computer. Steve looked at it and said, "We can sell this. We can start a company. We can put a computer in every home." In 1976, when Steve was just 21 years old, he and Wozniak started a company in the garage of Steve's house. They named it Apple. Steve liked the name because it was simple, fresh, and friendly. At that time, most computers were big, expensive, and hard to use. Steve and Woz wanted to make something small, cheap, and easy. They built their first computer, the Apple I. It didn't have a screen or keyboard, but it worked. They sold 50 computers to a local store. That was the beginning. Then came Apple II, a colorful computer with a screen and a keyboard. People loved it. Apple became famous, and Steve Jobs became a millionaire before the age of 25. Part 3. From the top to the bottom. Apple was growing fast. Steve became more confident. He had big dreams and high standards. He wanted everything to be perfect: the design, the color, even the way a box opened. Some people thought he was too demanding, but Steve believed that great things need great care. In 1984, Apple released a new computer called the Macintosh. It had a mouse, a graphic screen, and a friendly interface. It looked different from anything else on the market. The Macintosh was a big step into the future, but not everything was going well. Inside Apple, there were disagreements. Steve was young, emotional, and not always easy to work with. Some managers thought he was too risky. In 1985, something shocking happened. Steve Jobs was pushed out of his own company. The board of directors removed him. It was a painful moment. Imagine building a company from zero, watching it grow, and then losing it. Steve was hurt. He felt lost, but he didn't give up. Part 4. A new chapter, next in Pixar. Steve Jobs was only 30 years old when he was pushed out of Apple, the company he started in a garage. He felt broken. For many days, he stayed quiet. He didn't know what to do next. People thought he would disappear from the business world. But Steve was not an ordinary man. He was a fighter. He didn't like to give up. One day, he sat down and asked himself a question: what do I love to do? The answer was clear. He still loved technology. He still loved building things. He still had big dreams. So, he started a new company. He named it Next. He wanted to create a special computer, not for everyone, but for schools, universities, and professionals. The idea was to build a machine that was powerful, beautiful, and modern. The first Next computer was black and square. It looked like something from the future. It had strong hardware and advanced software. But it was also very expensive. Most schools and people could not afford it. Even though Next didn't become a big success in the market, Steve was proud of it. He said the machines were like works of art. More importantly, during his time at Next, Steve learned many new skills. He learned how to manage people better. He learned how to build strong software. And many of these ideas would help Apple later in the future. But Steve wasn't only thinking about computers. At the same time, he made a surprising decision. He bought a small animation studio from George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. This studio had smart engineers and artists, but they had not made any successful movies yet. The studio's name was Pixar. When Steve bought Pixar, many people thought it was a bad move. Steve had never worked in movies before. He didn't know how to make cartoons. But Steve saw something special. He believed in the people at Pixar. He gave them time, space, and money to work on their ideas. For years, Pixar worked hard. They didn't give up. Finally, in 1995, they released a movie called Toy Story. It was the first full-length animated film made completely with computers. And it was a big hit. People around the world loved Toy Story. The characters were funny and full of heart. Children laughed. Parents cried. Everyone talked about how different the movie felt. Pixar became famous overnight. Toy Story made hundreds of millions of dollars. But more than the money, it gave Steve something else: hope. Now, Steve had two companies. Next was teaching him how to build better software. Pixar was teaching him about creativity, teamwork, and storytelling. These years were quiet, but powerful. While the world forgot about him, Steve Jobs was quietly preparing for a bigger comeback. Little did anyone know the best part of Steve's story was still ahead. Part 5. The Return to Apple, a Second Chance. By the mid 1990s, Apple was not the same company Steve Jobs had once built. The company was struggling. Its computers were not selling well. New products were confusing and expensive. The designs were boring. The company had lost its magic. Many people in the tech world thought Apple was going to die. At that time, Apple needed help. They needed something new, something bold. They needed someone who could bring fresh ideas, a strong vision, and hope. And so, in 1996, Apple made a big decision. They bought Next, the company Steve Jobs had built after leaving Apple. It was not just about the software or technology. The real reason was clear. They wanted Steve Jobs back. At first, Steve returned as an advisor. He didn't have full control of the company. But it didn't take long for people inside Apple to see that Steve was different. He asked sharp questions. He made fast decisions. He had a clear picture of where Apple should go. In 1997, Steve became the interim CEO of Apple. That means he was a temporary leader, just until they found someone else. But Steve had other plans. He didn't just want to help. He wanted to fix Apple for good. The first thing Steve did was simplify. He looked at all the products Apple was making and cut most of them. He said, "Let's focus. Let's build just 4 great products: a desktop and laptop for home, and a desktop and laptop for professionals." He didn't want 10 average products. He wanted 4 amazing ones. Then, he started working on the design. Steve believed that a computer should not only work well, it should also look beautiful. He teamed up with a talented designer named Johnny Ive. Together, they started creating something fresh. In 1998, Apple released the iMac. It was like nothing people had ever seen. It came in bright colors: blue, green, orange. It was all in one. It had a handle on top. It looked friendly and fun. People loved it. The iMac saved Apple. Sales jumped. The media started talking about Apple again. Young people wanted to buy the cool, colorful computer. And Steve Jobs was back, not just in the company, but in the spotlight. But Steve didn't stop there. He saw that the world was changing. Music was going digital. People were downloading songs online, often illegally. CDs were dying. There was no good way to carry lots of music in your pocket. So in 2001, Apple launched the iPod. It was small, simple, and beautiful. The message was clear: 1,000 songs in your pocket. The iPod became a cultural icon. Everyone wanted one: teenagers, artists, even business people. Apple also launched iTunes, a digital store where people could buy songs legally. It changed the music industry forever. Steve Jobs had done it again. He had taken a company close to death and made it cool, powerful, and profitable. But he wasn't finished. In 2007, Steve stood on a stage in front of thousands of people. He wore a black turtleneck, jeans, and sneakers, his signature outfit. He smiled and said, "Today, we are going to reinvent the phone." And then, he introduced the iPhone. It was more than a phone. It was a phone, an iPod, and an internet browser, all in one device. People were shocked. They had never seen anything like it. The iPhone changed everything. It changed how people communicate, take photos, use the internet, and live their daily lives. Other companies tried to copy it. but none could match Apple's style and simplicity. With the iPhone, Apple became the most valuable company in the world. Steve Jobs became a global icon. He had done the impossible. He saved the company he was once fired from and made it greater than ever before. But even at the top, Steve stayed focused. He still cared about the little things. He still asked hard questions. He still wanted every Apple product to feel magical. Part 6: The Final Years, A Lasting Legacy. By the late 2000s, Steve Jobs had become more than just a businessman. He was a symbol of creativity, courage, and believing in your dreams. The iPhone was a huge success. Apple was growing fast. New products like the iPad and MacBook Air were changing the world of technology. But while everything looked perfect from the outside, something serious was happening inside Steve's body. In 2003, doctors told Steve that he had a rare kind of cancer in his pancreas. This type of cancer is usually very dangerous. Most people with it don't live long, but Steve's type was a bit different. The doctors said he could have surgery and maybe survive. At first, Steve didn't listen to them. He tried other treatments, natural food, special diets, alternative medicine. He believed in thinking differently, even with his health. But after 9 months, he agreed to surgery. The doctors removed the tumor, and for a while, Steve looked healthy again. He came back to work. He stood on stage. He introduced the iPhone, then the iPad. His energy, his voice, his smile, everything seemed normal. But the truth was, his body was still fighting the disease. In 2009, Steve had to take a long break from Apple. He was getting weaker. He had a liver transplant, a very serious operation. Still, he didn't stop working. He sent emails to his team. He joined meetings from home. He cared deeply about every new product Apple was creating. In 2010, he came back on stage and introduced the iPad. People were amazed. It was like holding a little piece of the future in your hands. Steve smiled, but he was thinner now. His face looked tired. Some people were worried, but his passion was still burning. In 2011, Steve made a difficult decision. He sent a letter to the Apple board. He said, "I have always said that if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come." He stepped down as CEO. He asked the company to let Tim Cook, a trusted partner, take over. Steve's message was simple and full of humility. He didn't ask for attention or praise. He just wanted what was best for Apple. Only a few months later, on October 5th, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. He was 56 years old. The news broke hearts around the world. People cried. They left flowers, candles, apples, and thank you notes outside Apple stores. World leaders, celebrities, students, teachers, engineers all said the same thing. Steve Jobs changed our lives. Some said he was the Einstein of our time. Others called him a modern Leonardo da Vinci. But to many, he was simply the man who taught us to dream big. In his final years, Steve gave one of his most famous talks, a speech at Stanford University in 2005. In that speech, he told 3 simple stories from his life. He spoke about love and loss, about following curiosity, and about death. He ended the speech with a message that became legendary. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. These words inspired millions. They meant never stop learning. Never be afraid to take risks. Be curious. Be bold. Live your life fully. Steve Jobs didn't live a long life, but he lived deeply. He worked with passion. He built things that mattered. He showed the world that technology could be beautiful and that design could touch hearts. His body left the world in 2011, but his spirit is still here in every iPhone, every iPad, every Apple Store, in every young person who has a crazy idea and dares to believe in it. Part 7. What we learn from Steve Jobs. Lessons for life. Steve Jobs is gone, but his story is still alive. It's not just a story about computers or phones. It's a story about dreams, failure, courage, and faith. It's a story that teaches us how to live, not just how to work. Here are some of the most powerful lessons we can learn from Steve Jobs. 1. Follow your heart. Steve once said, "Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life." He believed that deep inside, we all know what we truly want, but we're afraid. We worry about what others will say. We try to fit in. Steve didn't. He dropped out of college. He followed his curiosity. He studied calligraphy, art, design, things that had no job title. But later, those things helped him create beautiful products. The lesson is simple: trust yourself. Follow what you love. Even if it looks strange now, one day it might make all the difference. 2. Don't be afraid of failure. Steve was fired from his own company. It was a painful moment, but he didn't give up. He said, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have happened to me." Why? Because it gave him freedom. It gave him space to grow. He started next. He built Pixar, and he became a better leader. Failure is not the end. It's a lesson. It makes you stronger, wiser, braver. So don't be afraid to fall. Be afraid of never trying. 3. Be curious and creative. Steve didn't just build machines. He created experiences. He wanted people to feel something when they used Apple products. He believed in the power of design, simplicity, and beauty. He said, "Design is not just how it looks. Design is how it works." He always asked, "Can we make it simpler? Can we make it better? Can we make it magical?" The lesson is think differently. Be creative. Mix technology with art. Mix logic with feeling. That's where innovation lives. 4. Focus on quality. Steve hated things that were good enough. He wanted excellence. Even the parts of a product that people didn't see, like the inside of a computer, he wanted them to be beautiful and perfect. He said, "Details matter. It's worth waiting to get it right." So whether you're building a product, writing a book, making a video, or learning English, give it your best. Make something you're proud of. 5. Think long term. Most people want quick success, fast money, instant fame. But Steve played the long game. It took years for Apple to grow. It took years for Pixar to make Toy Story. It took years of learning, failing, and waiting. So be patient. Keep building. Keep improving. Success takes time. 6. Stay hungry, stay foolish. These 4 words became Steve's final gift to the world. Stay hungry means never stop learning. Always want more knowledge, more growth, more meaning. Stay foolish means don't be afraid to look crazy. Try new things. Take bold steps. Dream like a child. Be brave enough to be different. The world needs more dreamers, more risk takers, more creators. Final words. Steve Jobs was not perfect. He made mistakes. He was intense. Sometimes he was hard to work with. But he never stopped believing in big ideas. He never stopped pushing the limits. He showed us that one person with a clear vision, strong will, and crazy passion can truly change the world. And if he could do it, a college dropout, a kid with a dream, maybe, just maybe, you can too. So, whatever you want to build, start today. Whatever you dream of doing, begin now. Because the world is waiting for your story. And that's the end of Steve Jobs' story. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new in English and in life. This story was written in simple English to help you understand better, learn faster, and feel more confident. And if you like this kind of story, we have many more for you. So don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel for more true, simple, and motivational stories, specially made for English learners like you. Because learning English doesn't have to be boring. It can be exciting, inspiring, and fun, just like this. Please also like and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe me, guys. Just support me by subscribing me, and I will make great stories for you guys. See you in the next story.